So there's a big announcement that just happened. We're going to get to that really quickly.
Yes.
But I want to kick it off. We're at Cannes. We're talking about creativity. This conversation is around personalization in the age of authenticity. So my first question for you is, how do you balance those two? What does authentic personalization in this age actually mean? And we'll start with you, Parbs.
We got right into it, didn't we?
No chit chat.
No chit.
All killer, no
How is
filler.
everybody? Yeah. Look, as you think about commerce media, actually, let me just take a step back. Andy, thanks for having us. This is awesome. We love Beat TV. As we think about commerce media, a lot of the work that we've been doing over the last couple of years has been really just building platforms, looking at the way in which our data has been organized, the way in which we can get to and build audiences really fast. We've gone from being able to deliver audiences in 4 weeks to pretty much within a day now, right? So that's happened in a very, very quick period of time, and we're maturing as an organization. If you look at the way in which we're delivering measurement for us has gone from 4-6 weeks to being able to provide measurement in real time. If you look at the way in which we drive optimizations, we weren't able to drive optimizations. Now we can drive optimizations in real time and dynamically as well. So, we're really moving in an incredible speed, and commerce media is being pushed. We're being pushed by incredible brands to mature our offering. But where do we go from here? And this is why we're here, right? And the next stage and the next opportunity for us really now comes in the way in which we can leverage our assets and across other platforms where consumers are also engaging. And one of the ways and areas that they're engaging is on Reddit. It's a significant business. It's 108 million daily active visitors, I should say. And we're allowed, today we're announcing the connectivity of our 90 million ExtraCare consumers with the 108 million daily active visitors, and being able to activate them across communities within Reddit. It's a first of its kind. We're the first health and wellness retail media network to provide this, and we're the first to provide end-to-end attribution as well. Period. So that's kind of the next phase.
Yeah. You dived in deep, which is amazing.
I didn't answer your question at all.
And you didn't, but that's fine.
Question?
And we are Redditors, to be clear. We're not users, we're Redditors. I'm an avid,
Is that right?
Avid Reddit user.
But
yeah, I mean, I think, Parbs, I know we're gonna get even deeper into the conversation, but it's just kind of this question of, is there such a thing as authentic personalization? You have all of this data and information. Are those two things incongruent?
I think that's what commerce media actually promises, right? I think, yeah. Sorry, go on, Mike.
Yeah, I'm happy to give it a shot. Look, the core of Reddit is community, right? People coming, connecting with other people about topics that they're really passionate about, that they really care about. One of the unique things about Reddit is that it's anonymous. And so you'd think that would bring out the worst in people, but actually it brings out their vulnerabilities, right? Talk about conditions that they may have, like health is a huge category for us. You may not want to talk about that unusual rash underneath your own name on a platform, but you can talk about it anonymously and find support, find treatment, all of that kind of stuff. So there's an authenticity that's inherent in the Reddit platform. When you take the power of the data that you all have, right, and combine it with the interest information that we have, that is authentic and personalized, but at an amazing scale. So, like, the point of a partnership is that you bring what's unique about what you have, we have what's unique about us. If you think about specific products, and you know that there's loyalty around people who have purchased, let's say, first aid products, right, through CVS. And we want to package that to people who are outdoors enthusiasts. So you're going camping. We can come up with really unique creatives that say, hey, when you're out camping, here's some amazing, products that you can think about. That's personalized, but it's also creative. right? And it's authentic because it's something that we know that they're interested in and we know that they've had some interaction with before. That's how you bring both of those things together.
So Kelly, we have Parbs and we have Mike here, and they are the platforms and the partners. You are the brand. How does this partnership kind of change the way you think about personalization and reaching your audience?
Yeah, so I'm Kelly Kavanagh from Haleon. We have products like Advil, Sensodyne, Tums, Preparation H.
Why'd you look at me for that?
You mentioned uncomfortable places. We're very comfortable talking about those places. We've been working with Parbs for a long time and with CVS and retail media because what's really interesting in what's happening in this industry is it was, search at one point, then social at one point, now retail, it's all blending together. And I think that's what's really enabling all of us as marketers to be driving that enhanced personalization. So when I first heard about the partnership, on a personal level, it really made sense because I can't tell you how many people in my life, whether they're struggling with mental health or physical illness, or I have a friend on back surgery, and so much of the conversation when we've been checking in with those friends is, well, I was looking on Reddit and I saw that this medication helps and that treatment helped, and then most of us have a CVS in our hometown in America. My kids go there after school every day and harass the poor employees there.
I want to ask about the trust piece, because that's a big part of personalization. And so for all of you, Parbs, you have these 90 million ExtraCare members. You have a rich have this rich supply of information that can feel very personal. How do you leverage this information to create these personalized experiences while still maintaining that user trust?
Yeah, so we, whenever we think about any kind of segmentation of our audience or any way of targeting our audience, the consumer is at the heart of everything that we do. It really is. And we don't just say that, we actually mean it. And the way in which we mean it is there's lots of different ways in which we connect that consumer through our own internal business. If you think about the consumer flywheel and how do we get that consumer flywheel going, but whilst enabling trust, there has to be connectivity between the retail media network, there has to be connectivity with the brand marketing team, the merchandising organization, and many other facets of the business as well. And if those are not connected, and in order to drive trust and drive engagement, you will not drive value for your brand. So we have those checks and balances in with us all of the time, whether it's running an ad in our store network, whether it's running a digital ad. The policies that we exhibit are to protect the consumer, to protect our brand, to protect our brand, and just keep and make sure that anything that we do from a retail media perspective is additive to the experience. That's what retail media is. It's got to be additive. It's how do you help consumers discover? How do you help consumers find new products? How do you help consumers continue with their regime? And that's the sort of the beauty, I personally believe, of commerce media.
I would agree, and as an advertiser, I think it's so important that we place ourselves, especially a health and wellness advertiser, we place ourselves in an environment that consumers trust. And when we do it, if we do it with a partnership, we do it with other really well-known and respected brands in the category and in health. And I think that's why it's such a compelling blending of the two that are coming together. We've been laying out our strategy for over the course of the years, and when we talk about strategy, we then think about the teams that we have, and we have a connected social team that's really working on how do we drive that connectivity between social directly to commerce. And we're all so tired and busy. We just want to make it easy for ourselves and for our consumers. So what better way to do it to make sure that we're connecting with our consumers where they're seeking the information and making it that seamless experience where we know they're going to find their health and wellness solutions, and those health and wellness solutions will ideally be ours.
So we know that on Reddit, where we have authentic conversation, when brands come into that conversation, they need to participate authentically. No matter what. And we know that the most engagement, the most success that advertisers have is when they come into those communities as participants and respect and gain the trust of those communities. What we're doing here are bringing in perspectives from our brand partners, bringing perspectives from our platform partners to make those messages even more pertinent and relevant. And so if we do it right, there's a win-win-win across us as a platform, providing, ad creative, but things that are relevant and hopefully positive and additive to the experience that people are having on the platform.
We talk about that a lot. We talk about the win-win-win. It's got to be a win for the consumer. It's got to be a win for the brand. It's got to be a win for the enterprise, right? And don't pretend. All of those three things, and that's why this partnership is perfect. And the other thing that I would just add on what you're saying, Mike, is no one has been able to provide that end-to-end attribution model from a retail perspective or any other perspective. That's why this partnership that we're doing right now is a first of its kind. I think it's
a great point. I think people come to Reddit for all sorts of reasons, but we know that give or take half of the conversations that happen on Reddit are commercial in nature. Right? People want to buy something, they're trying to make up their mind, they want to take a trip somewhere, they're trying to decide where to go. And so they have some vague notion. They come to Reddit to tap into the community, to get conviction that I was thinking of buying some product in this category, okay, I'm going to buy that car, right? And so the more that they can have that support and conviction around what they're going to do, that's what they're really getting from the Reddit community.
There's that authenticity, right? There's the showing up and don't just slap an ad in the feed. It is how do you support a conversation? How do you do a Q&A? Kali, a question for you is to show up authentically in Reddit sometimes means that brands need to be a little bit less corporate. They need to be true. And Haleon has multiple brands. So how do you balance kind of showing up authentically in this space while adhering to like corporate kind of guidelines and brand guidelines?
The most important thing is to really get your legal and regulatory teams familiar and comfortable in the beginning. And I think, everybody in our organization has a role to play and an objective to deliver on. And our legal team has to say, are we meeting the standards and expectations that are required? But with that, I think everybody's evolving. And the earlier you bring those partners internally into the conversation and explain the opportunity, the challenge, the need to really show up in these places for our consumers, because it's harder and harder to really drive that relevancy in a meaningful way with consumers in different places. And give them the context of what we're trying to achieve, but then also really make sure that we're hearing and listening to the challenges that they're setting forth. The earlier you build that partnership internally and recognize it truly as a partnership and not an argument and a debate and a negotiation, the more success we've seen. I think there's also the opportunity, especially in the social platforms, to recognize the influence and need for third-party voices, such as creators, and giving them a little bit of that freedom to drive their own personalized story about your brand, within boundaries and laying out the clear expectations of the context of what we can and can't say about our products, but trusting them, building that ongoing creator-led trust, I think does help reinforce and instill, it's on the two sides, internal and external partnerships, and being really clear with expectations, but then just making sure that we're monitoring and readjusting as needed if the time comes.
So Parbs, you brought up attribution and measurement, and I do have a question on that. But Mike, I had one question for you before we go to that.
Sure.
You come from Google, which is scale.
I come from New Jersey, but I've worked at Google.
You worked at, that's valid, right? But you worked at Google, which is all about scale.
Yeah.
But then now you're at Reddit, and this is very one-to-one. This is very personalized. How do you how do you effectively advertise in a community and get the scale, but also that authenticity?
Well, look, let's not forget how big Reddit actually is, right? Over 100 million daily actives. We're one of the most trafficked internet properties in the whole entire world. We have a lot of scale. I think what makes us unique is the 100,000 plus communities where in this enormous audience that comes and uses us on a daily basis, we have lots of little places where people come to be authentic, to get support, to talk about the things that they're really passionate about. When marketers come and enter that conversation, there's an opportunity for them to come as a participant. right? We say Reddit is a very human place. There's messiness, there's all the things that come with being human. When brands come in, yes, there's brand guidelines and regulatory stuff and all of that, but ultimately companies are made up of people. And so to think about it less as a nameless corporate entity and thinking more about the humans who are running what you're trying to do to bring products and solutions to an audience that is legitimately asking for them, I think that's a very additive and very natural process.
So this is all touchy-feely, authentic communication and communities. Let's talk about money. Let's talk about measurement. How do you measure this? How do you measure community building in addition to driving sales? Because I know we need to drive sales for you, Kelly, but it's also not just about driving sales. So Parbs, how are you helping Kelly and other partners measure?
Sales.
That's what she said. No, we will not enter into a partnership or a collaboration, I should say. We will not enter in a collaboration and any co-creation of content if we're unable to provide that end-to-end attribution. Because if we think about the promise that retail media has always said, which is, hey, I have a user, I'm seeing that user engage with platform A or platform B, I'm seeing that consumer then come back into our retail environment and purchase that product. Well, commerce media has every single part of that transaction. We understand and have a relationship with the consumer. We understand where that consumer is browsing or engaging with specific content. We understand when that consumer comes back into our environment, right? ExtraCare and the depth of ExtraCare and the longevity of ExtraCare really helps us get that. We've got to be able to measure it, right? Like, we've got to be able to measure that. And when we lose that, then we become part of the rest of media, right? We don't become the second wave, but we are absolutely the third wave. And that's what's driving our business, those types of partnerships, providing that level of end-to-end. And it's all about sales, right? It's all about sales. And the one thing that I will underline and underscore with everything that we do around measurement is that we are transparent with everything that we provide. We conform to the IAB standards at the highest level. We can provide incrementality on all of our campaigns. That's the level of, we hold ourselves to a high standard within our organization because that's what's going to not only just drive the business that CMX is building, but actually drives the industry.
I'll just comment on the measurement piece. Look, from a sales perspective, the only way that we grow revenue is by providing demonstrable results over and over again that show growth for our customers. If we can't do that, we're not going to be in business. And what happens on Reddit is people are coming, they're having these conversations, they're deciding to buy, and then they're walking into a store and buying your product. Or they're coming back a couple days later and going online and buying a product. We don't participate in that transaction, but we are an essential part of that transaction. So having this collaboration together with you guys and connecting the pipes to be able to measure that, we can show both the breadth of incremental users. Like, we find that people who are on Reddit, Redditors aren't necessarily on lots of other social platforms, right? So there's a lot of unduplicated reach. You're not going to get those sales unless you're actively marketing on the Reddit platform and then showing how much lift there actually is once you go through the consideration phase and then going through to the end purchase. We know that anecdotally, we know that through studies, but through this partnership that we're doing together, we're able to actually measure that on a case-by-case basis.
So it sounds like you get the sales that Kelly wants, but then you also have additional metrics that help kind of explain even further the benefit of the partnership.
It's good to know that something happened. It's better to know why it happened, right?
I'd love to build because I know we're almost at time, but I would say yes, sales. And I think that the really appealing story of blending a social opportunity and a retail opportunity is you do have that sales measurement, but you do also have that, part of the social platforms and the broad scale of it is building the equity of our brand and the trust and reliability, especially in such a relevant environment that the health and wellness communities offer for the Redditors. So we do also look at share of voice. in social, and that is important. Are our brands showing up? Are they showing up in the right way? We do a lot of social listening, and I think as measurement gets more sophisticated, we'll be able to really see that correlation. I mean, that's the really, we talked early on in early years about ROAS, and now we're talking about new to brand, incrementality, all those really important things that go beyond just making sure that the same person that was going to walk into a CVS and buy an Advil is buying it again. We want to make sure we're getting new users and new consumers to try our brands. So it's really exciting when you think about all, and it gives you a headache, but it's really exciting to think about how these all start to really blend together with this partnership.
Parb's last word?
No, I was just going to say, look, it's brands like Haleon that are really pushing us to be better, right? And I would just say, just continue to push us to be better.
No problem.
It's partnership. It's very true, actually. It's partnerships like Reddit that we are incredibly proud of, right? Like it's a first of its kind. So I think let's just keep growing the industry. It would benefit everybody, I think, as a whole.
Well, congrats on the new news, and we'll talk a little bit more with Paul about this later. Let's give everyone a round of applause.